Alex friggin' Legos. What's up, man?
What an intro, dude. Thanks. Good to be here. How are you guys?
It's good. Good to see you. It's good to catch up with you. I know you and I go way back. So summer 2012, I think, is when we met.
Yep.
Playing baseball for the Niagara Power. Shout out Niagara Falls, Grand Island, New York. What a summer! What couple summers we were there.
Yeah, it was good times out there, man. Definitely.
Yeah, it was.
Memory lane. When you slid into my inbox, I was like, "There's a name I haven't seen in a minute."
Yeah. It's been 12.
Back when you
13
guys were
years.
still gonna go pro.
Yeah, we still had
Yeah.
dreams.
Yeah. Well, you were D1, I think, right? You were Brown or something.
Bryant. Yeah.
Bryant. Yeah, one
Yep.
of those. Well, one thing we like to start the show off with is we ask most of our entrepreneurs this question: what would you say is the worst job you've ever had?
Oof. The worst job I've ever had was probably my first job out of college, selling commercial windows. And it wasn't even that it was a bad job. It was just I didn't care about it at all. Like I didn't care about windows. I also still to this day have a deep hatred of sales. Like I don't even like when I'm, air quotes selling what we do now and I'm passionate about what we do and all that. Like I still hate the selling part of it. And so I was in a genuine sales role where I was dropping in on like apartment complexes and office buildings and hospitals and just being like, hey, you guys haven't had your windows done in like 35 years. They look like trash. We can do them for you. Would that be something that you want to do? And that was essentially my pitch. And most of the time it was, no, we're good. Just leave a brochure and leave. And that's how those interactions went. So it was, I hated it. I did it for like 2.5 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
I learned a lot there for sure. And alongside it, I was, that's how I started doing like part-time social media management, which led to the rest of my career. But that window job, man, that was like, I was crying, putting on my polos some mornings. Like it was not fun.
So what you said you learned
saying
a lot. What are those things that you learned that you can, pull from that experience that helped you become successful in what you do today?
I learned a lot about myself in that. I definitely learned things that I didn't want to do, sales being primary, then working on anything that I just don't care about. Like I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to work jobs for the rest of my life doing things that I just have no genuine interest in. I think I also learned a lot about time management, and I would go back to like, I'd credit my time playing baseball in that as well, of like just understanding how to put together a to-do list, how to prioritize that to-do list, and like when do things need to be done, how to shuffle as needed when things move on you and, things are outside of your control. I think it's just like a lot of basic, not even so much like business stuff, more so just like life experience fundamentals.
Yeah.
And you also learned that maybe the best pitch isn't, hey, your windows look like trash.
Yeah. It worked a couple times.
It's a
though,
pretty
believe it
good
or not.
pitch. Yeah. You're like, hey,
Yeah,
man,
like,
I'm
yeah,
a
I was just driving
professional.
by and your windows look horrible and I couldn't take a notice. So can I help?
Just driving by and I couldn't see you inside your own building.
Yeah. Right.
So Kyle and I, in starting this podcast, we started kind of messing around with our own entrepreneurial endeavors, little tease for actually future episode. We're planning on diving into those, what exactly we're doing. But I started placing vending machines.
Yeah. Nice.
And so I'm doing a little sales. It's hard because it's like, it's not really sales. I'm not selling you it costs you nothing.
Right.
I'm asking if I can put a vending machine in your building.
I have a buddy in
And
Nashville doing this right now and he's crushing.
Yeah, it's a great business. It's just like, it's still super cringy and awkward to like make those calls because everybody's like, another sales pitch? Like, what do you want? Get out of my face.
Yep.
So it's,
gotta
I
have a
feel
second
that I'm in
scan.
sales and I'm selling you a free thing and it still sucks.
Can't even give it away.
Yeah.
You're still selling
So I
that
feel
opportunity though. Like, and to your point, like, I think everybody's on such high alert now to like, nobody wants to be sold to.
Yeah.
So it's like, you better come correct and make this really exciting for me in
Yeah.
a couple of sentences. Otherwise I'm out, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's no better like way of like, I think encapsulating that than like the ad culture that we live in.
Yep.
Like you click on a YouTube video and I'm mashing skip before I can even skip
ASAP.
it. And so it's, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Well, and we live in this like TikTok, Instagram reel culture where like if you don't catch my attention in your first 3 seconds, I'm out. So It's tough. It's a tough game, but let's dive into that though, because you're like kind of crushing the social media, creative arts, if you will. Like, I kind of talk to us. So you were doing this job out of college, selling windows. Like, what is the transition that ultimately led to today? You run a business, Legos Creative. Tell us what that is and kind of what transpired that led up to Legos Creative.
Yeah. So it was as I was doing the window job, alongside it, I was like, I just had this passion for social media. Like I thought it was such a cool tool. I thought, especially when it comes to like being in Nashville, a ton of my friends were independent artists, and it was so obvious that that was the vehicle for them to get on. If they were going to get traction and it wasn't going to come from a major label, it was like, it's got to be social media. And so I was like, well, I know a lot about this. I can start managing like your accounts part-time, just like my friends. That led to a couple of clients. That led to me gaining some experience in building a resume, but also realizing that like, well, these people are broke just like I am. So this isn't going to be sustainable for much longer. I need to work with small businesses who have a budget that they can actually put towards this. And that will allow me to be better at this for them and build better resume. And so I started to offer those services to small businesses. And then over time in like 2017, I really got obsessed with podcasting just as a consumer. I had a lot of free time on my hands at that time because I didn't really like my job. So I was listening to a lot of podcasts. And then I was like, I, I think no one's marketing this well. I was looking at the podcast space through a social media manager's lens and being like, there's no way that this square logo on an Instagram feed with a waveform over it and it's only audio is getting people to engage. And they're definitely not sharing this with anybody. And they're definitely not going back to watch the full episode from there. So I was like, there's this blank space in podcasting. It needs to be marketed better. And so I put together a content model that focused on video because if it wasn't going to be video, nobody was going to care about it. And so I built this model back to front, starting with how should content appear on a social media feed, and then let that dictate how we produce it in a studio setting when we actually capture. And so I was fortunate enough to get connected to a show called Bussin' with the Boys. It was a football show. They two NFL guys, Will Compton and Taylor Lewan. They were like, "We need social media help." I was like, "That's exactly what I do." And I have this model that like isn't really being executed at scale right now. I think it would be really cool to plug it in and see what happens. They gave me a shot. I came in and plugged it in. The show exploded. They were on like episode 12 at the time when I came in. By 4 months from then, Barstool had knocked on the door and Barstool Sports and was like, "We love the show. And also we love the way that you guys are marketing the show, specifically the way that you guys focus on your YouTube channel." And for me, hearing that from somebody, at Barstool HQ on the other line, I was like, oh, wow, okay, this is probably like stamp of approval for me to try to make this a company and work on some other shows as well. And so from there, I tried to get my hands on as many other podcasts as I could to see if one, is the model going to work on other shows? Like I knew it worked on this one, but also these guys are really special. Like those guys are stars. So I was like, is it me? I don't know. Is this just my coaching LeBron,
Yeah,
And then
yeah, right,
that
right.
turned into, it worked no matter what podcast it was, no matter what genre it was in, the model was working and it was increasing reach for shows. And over time, that turned into what other services can we offer besides the social media? And through Bussin' with the Boys, I gained a lot of experience in growing their team, hiring people, training them up, putting them in roles, managing them, and was able to really cut my teeth and gain a ton of experience there. So that was kind of like my sandbox to play in. That led to me then going outside of them, building my own company and just adding services over time as they were needed in the space. And so now we have a studio in downtown Nashville. We have 4 suites down here in this building that we're in. We have 4 different studio options. We have production on staff at all times, 7 days a week. You want to come in and do a podcast, we can record you. We can also do the whole back end production as far as the editing, the distribution, social media content, graphics, etc.
So you got a whole team
That's
of people, not just
yeah.
you, just a
We
whole
have a team
team
of
running.
6. Yeah, we keep it
That's
really
awesome.
streamlined intentionally. I like it that way. I think it gives more of like a boutique feel to our clients, and I think that's really important because of how intimate podcasting can be.
There's a lot to unpack there, and I love that that you've had so much experience, it sounds like, that's kind of developed your journey along the way. Because I think a lot of people think you just arrive, and that's not the case. Obviously, listening to your story.
What year was that you got bussin' with the boys?
2018.
2018.
Okay.
So it's been 7 years that you've been growing.
Well, I feel like it would be kind of a low-hanging fruit question to ask, but I also know I don't want you to tread too close on to maybe what your secret sauce is when it comes to, what you were doing. But you said that you felt like you had a unique style that you were doing, or kind of like a unique value proposition. Can you kind of talk about maybe if it's commonplace now, you can talk about it more freely, but like what you were looking at to do differently versus like what you were seeing at the time?
Yeah, totally. It's become the gold standard of like podcast marketing. So fully open to talk about all of it, because if you just watch the biggest shows in the world, this is how they work now. Podcasting was in a place where the full shows were not discoverable. Nobody was finding the full shows because most of them were audio only. And if you didn't know what a podcast was called, you weren't just going to stumble upon it on a Spotify or an Apple Podcast. You had to go search it, and you had to intentionally go and get that thing. In the same way that, like for a website, you would have to type in the domain. It's not just going to pop up on your feed at any point. And so the focus was, how do we give content from these episodes to audiences on social feeds in a way that gets them to engage with it, share it with people, and then go watch the full episode or listen to the full episode. And at that time, Gary Vee was peak. Like, Gary was doing his daily vlog stuff, and he was preaching, record something long form and then repurpose that content in a million different ways. And I was looking at podcasting in front of me being like, this is the same thing. It's a long form piece of content with a ton of little choppable moments that all get boiled down to these nuggets that can go out on the feeds. And so how that looked when it went into podcasting was very similar to how Gary was doing things on his side. So it was really just like, I saw inspiration from what he was doing. I saw the failure of the industry as it stood at the time. And then it was, okay, let's just put this thing to work so it's repeatable week over week. Does that answer kind of what you were looking for?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, maybe not necessarily that you're taking credit for just the concept as a whole, but maybe parallel thinking to other industry leaders at the time, or people who were starting to make their break. And then not only did you identify it, but you acted on it.
Yeah, no question. And I think, like, as much as I plant our flag on, like, we were the first agency to do this at scale, and Bussin' with the Boys was one of the first shows to execute this consistently week over week. And like have it as a system versus just every now and then post a clip type thing, which is what some podcasts were doing at the time. It's very much so like, I just was looking around the space and noticed a need, and it just wasn't happening. And so we filled the hole.
And I feel like it's a worthwhile question to ask, especially for people, who can talk themselves into and out of doing things pretty easily. The idea of imposter syndrome, like where you're doing kind of something new, you're doing something against the grain or that's not currently being done. Did you have any kind of imposter syndrome in rolling that out, or was it just kind of from the onset, like, I think this is going to work, like forget everything else, blinders on kind of thing?
I always have felt like I've been blessed to have a very mass media perspective. Like, just me personally, the way that I typically interact with things on social or with brands that, are in the space, I feel like the way that like my taste tends to vibe very well with the taste of masses. And so for me, I just looked at it and was like, well, I would want to see clips from a show. So let's give clips of a show. And the more that we started posting them, the more it was like, yeah, this is definitely working. It's undeniable. So I think it was because of the nature of social media, not really high stakes to be like, let's start posting clips and see what happens. So I didn't really feel much of imposter syndrome on that. I did feel more of it though, on like starting my own company. On that side of it, it was definitely a little like, dude, who am I to say that this is where podcasting is going as a whole, and I'm going to plant a company into Nashville and say that we're the ones who are really leading the charge in that like industry shaping context. Totally, man. And I still feel that occasionally.
So I mean, that obviously, I feel like that begs a follow-up of sorts. Is like, I feel like a lot of people that we've talked to, they have this, like, I don't know, angelic angels descending from heaven, like the moment. that comes through. Did you have a moment like that, or was it just like, hey, day by day, I'm going to take it and see how it happens?
I think the Barstool time was a big moment for me, just because it was like such clear validation from I'm from outside of Boston. Like, I grew up in Rentham, Mass, 40 minutes from Boston. I know all about Barstool. I've watched Dave Portnoy since I was a kid. Like, I grew up watching him build something incredible. And so to be on a call with him and Erica and them be like, this is awesome, we love what you guys are doing, I was like, okay, all right. So that's kind of, I think, the only like aha moment that I could point at.
Yeah.
But there's many aha moments too. Like, another thing we drew from was, I loved how Colin Cowherd was running his social at the time. He was taking his long form interviews and then creating quote graphics, a picture of whoever, if it's a Tom Brady interview, a picture of Tom Brady with a quote on top of that graphic. And then he'd throw that out on Twitter and on Instagram and everything. And then that would get crazy shares. We implemented that. And I was like, that's huge. Like, that just went crazy. All the comments flooded. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. We got that. And then another one was, we started doing carousel posts where the first slide was the quote graphic. And then the second slide was a clip including that quote. And so you could then see it in context of the conversation. Those went crazy. So there's little aha moments like that of like tactical stuff. The Barstool moment is probably the biggest,
the
like,
first one, the first
macro,
like holy
wow.
cow.
Yeah.
It's a bucket list item you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I definitely am going to put this on the list of things I wanted now, and then check it off.
Yeah.
And if I missed this, forgive me, but why Nashville?
I moved here with my wife in 2015. She was going to pharmacy school. We had dated all through undergrad, and we knew we were getting married, and so we moved down here. We were here for a year, and we both looked at each other and we were like, we love it here, man. So
I just was curious because you said you were from Boston, so I didn't know if like you had seen something in Nashville specifically for your industry.
oh no, I was just in love. Yeah.
You just happened to be there and fell in love with it.
Men have done more for less.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, I want to tell a story, kind of how this interview came to be, because I'm a big John Christ fan.
Yeah.
And he came to my alma mater, Olivet Nazarene University, I think 2019, right before his big scandal.
Yep.
Just a real, like, I don't know. We've always just thought his comedy is hilarious. So I follow him on social media and all this stuff. I'm scrolling Instagram with my wife one night, and I see this clip of the Net Positive podcast with John Christ, and your face pops up and you say something. And I was like, hang on. I think I know that guy. And so I'm like Facebooking you, like trying to find a picture of you just to make sure I'm not confusing you for somebody else. I'm like, that's Alex Lagos. Like, I know this guy. And so then I start scrolling like all the Net Positive stuff, and I'm like, holy cow, like Alex Lagos and John Christ are like doing a show together. This is nuts. And so I've been kind of following you from afar for, I don't know, the better part of a year and a half or so since I discovered that this was a thing. So I got to ask, like, how did the John Christ connection happen? Did he discover you through your like podcasting production stuff, or did you start reaching out to people to gauge like, hey, you have a podcast, would you be interested in me helping you blow this thing up? Or how did this all, like, not just John Christ, but like, I know you work with a lot of people, so how did all that?
Well, yeah, John, the inception of Net Positive is actually one of my favorite like shows. One of my favorite like how the account happened stories. I was doing a podcast for a singer songwriter in Nashville called Ernest. Ernest writes a bunch of Morgan Wallen stuff. He's all over the place. Like, he's also written for a bunch of people in pop and everything. He's one of the most prolific songwriters of our time. But Ernest is also a really special personality. And so we were doing his podcast, and he had John Christ on as a guest. And when John came on, that episode got a massive pop. And I watched how it was promoted. We did our usual thing, so there was nothing different there. But John posted 2 story links that week for the show. And he said, hey, I went on my buddy Ernest's show. Here it is. And it exploded. And so I approached John a few weeks later and was like, hey, just so you know, I think it was the 3rd biggest we'd had at the time for Ernest. And I was like, your audience clearly wants to hear you in this context. The numbers show it. And I showed it to him, and he was like, okay, that sounds cool. I was like, do you want to do a show? What would that look like? And so we started talking through it. He had thought about it already, but didn't really know what to do about it. And so the more we talked about it, the more lunches we had, the more it was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I do want to do this. And I was just going to be in the room as like a soundboard. Like, hey, if you do your thing, you're the comedian. Like, we'll just give you a mic and cameras and we'll set it up. Over time, I think my role evolved just because we had good chemistry and we were developing that over time. The audience loved it. We've since also added in Easton, who is our studio manager. He's our lead producer here. He's on the show now as well. Like the chemistry has just evolved over time, and it's been a lot of fun. His audience is incredible, and so that's where that one came from. It's a little bit unorthodox the way that it came about, but we're always looking for stuff like that because we have a lot of clients now lead us to new clients just because of the guest nature. So yeah, that's the story in Net Positive.
Well, you talking about that kind of, makes me think like you're dealing with a pretty diverse set of clients there. I mean, just from client to client there, that's a pretty different audience base and things like that. So, as you're negotiating these deals to set up, your creative team working with them, is there kind of an industry standard as far as how you negotiate those contracts? Because in my mind, I'm just imagining that, somebody who would want to do something like this, like you're doing, might think 4, 5, 6 steps ahead and, maybe be intimidated by like, well, it's so different. I don't know how I would negotiate it. And, I don't want you to have to go too far into the inner machinations, but is there an industry standard, or are you able to kind of, based on your experience, just tailor it based on the client need?
Can you give me a little bit more on like in what way?
Like maybe
So
I think you're asking like, do you take a flat fee, like monthly retainer,
Oh,
like,
or
or
does it
is it kind of like
vary
it
by the
varies.
content
Yeah,
style?
yeah. We've done deals a bunch of different ways. We've done deals where it's 100% just cash for services. We don't own anything. We've done other deals where it's no cash. We come in and we'll partner with you on it, and we do have ownership in it. And then we have hybrid ones where like you pay us a fee to do certain things, and then we'll get a cut of back end revenue, just depending on kind of how we structure that. So I think it's one of the blessings and the curses of podcasting is like it's still a new industry as much as it's starting to now have some standards, which is great. It's been fun to be able to be like, well, where are you at, client A? What are you looking for? What would be useful to you? And then also, where are we at as a company? What chapter are we in of kind of like our existence and what's valuable to us at the time? Maybe we're not in a position to be like, hey, we don't need any cash up front. Maybe it's like, actually, we definitely need the money right now. So let's go that route. So I think it depends on kind of like the show. And also in that is talent evaluation. Like, how much do I believe in what this show could be, the potential of it? And then if it's something that looks really, really cool, I'm going to try to find a way in on it.
So I want to get a little bit into the weeds here because I'm just curious, especially in your early days. I think, our show is a lot about like the startup story, if you will. Like, how did you make this thing happen? So in the beginning, like, let's go bussing with the boys. Are you like kind of the master technician here? Are you doing the video? Are you buying like expensive camera equipment? Are you cutting the videos, posting on social media? Are you kind of just like taking everything, you applying your methodologies to like how you think this thing could blow up and just doing everything yourself? Was that a big like monetary investment in the beginning? Like, how did you get this? Like the whole, again, our podcast, kind of the whole thing is, I have this idea. How do I get it out of my head without spending my life savings on an idea that might suck?
Yeah. That's where the busing thing was so valuable for me, was I was able to play in somebody else's sandbox. So they had already gotten, they had a producer whose name was Bloss, who is actually how I got introduced to Will and Taylor. Uh, they had already bought all their camera equipment, audio equipment, everything. So like they had a functional podcast already. They just needed some structure and some content strategy. And so when I came in, it was a monthly retainer. I was in there just being, it wasn't enough to be a full-time thing yet. It was just, I'm going to be in here and I'm going to be bringing some, hey, this is the content that we have. Here's how it can be best positioned as an episode, as well as then onto social media. And then over time, that role evolved into more like of a creative director role, where I was then hiring team, passing off things. But in those early days, man, I was on social media like legitimately I can't scroll with my right thumb because it cramped. Like I'm like, I need like workers comp or something. Like I can't do it because I was so active then. It's a big reason why I think that that show did so well so quickly, was just like the hours that I and them everybody was putting in was insane. But I think, yeah, it was, those early days were definitely like fully hands on, nothing to delegate. I was just that guy on the phone posting every, hour on the hour type thing.
Now, I don't want to, you know, if you're not into name dropping, you don't have to. But
Oh, I'm not
I
gonna
am
like this already.
curious. I am curious.
I don't like this already.
Like what? How many clients do you have? You don't. If you don't want to name drop, you don't have to. We're here for it. If you do, but how many clients are you working with at this point?
So we just crossed 50 concurrent shows that we're working with right now. So we have a
50.
Nice.
consistent client base of
Congratulations.
50 shows. Thanks, man. Appreciate that. It's been
Yeah, that's awesome.
it's a crazy milestone. It's fun. And
Yeah.
so 50 shows that are recording with us consistently week over week. The studio's been packed. It's been a really cool ride because the studio is a piece that came later. That's still even like kind of a new thing over the last couple of years for us, which has been really cool. And then, yeah, I mean, we've worked with some of the biggest shows in the world. Theo Vaughn being probably the biggest one. Theo's somebody who I've met around town in Nashville, met him through Bussin' with the Boys. We do work with him occasionally. Yeah, man. I mean,
He's just taken off lately, but he's everywhere.
Yeah,
or should I say, your content is everywhere.
no, he's the best, man. He's amazing.
I know a lot of people are interested, not just in starting, but then once you have your feet under you and you're running, you want to do what you can to scale. And you were just mentioning kind of how the studio is a new thing. And so do you mind kind of unpacking for us like how you ended up coming up with the idea for the studio, or how the need presented itself? Like it was, I feel like it could be kind of chicken and the egg.
Sure.
Like you have the need or the opportunity presents itself and then you fill the opportunity.
Yeah, it was. So I had done, everything was turnkey before. Like I was selling turnkey packages just as a freelance guy, just being like, based on how things went with Bussin'. And so it was like, I know that I can provide these services, me personally, I can do those things. And so I was offering packages like that. That led to then got a small roster of shows, like 4 shows. And I was like, okay, I need to start delegating certain components of this. The first one was video editing. The second one was social media management. And then we got to a spot where when I approached John about the show to do Net Positive, we needed a studio. We didn't have one. And so literally the week before we recorded our first episode, I found a studio. Thank God we were going to record in my living room because we didn't have one. I
Love that.
had from that invested in all the equipment myself. Like I needed all the lights, all the mics, all the cameras, everything. And so I was like, I have all this stuff. I kind of just like went for it and was like, worst case scenario, we'll do it in my living room. And thank God, man, I found this building. And actually the company who was in the suite that we ended up getting went bankrupt less than an hour after I had seen the building, and they said, we don't have any vacancy. And then I got a call an hour later and they're like, hey, so you're never going to believe this, but this company just went under.
Yeah, you want to talk about timing, but I mean, I also imagine like all those supplies in your living room and your wife is like, what is this? And you're like,
She's the best, man.
That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with vending machines right now. I got a back room full of just junk food.
No, thankfully, my wife believes in me more than I believe in myself at times, and so she's been all in on it. Thank God.
Shout out to good wives.
Yeah, dude, the best. You need them so bad. But the studio then came from, so I get the space. We record once a week with John for an hour, and the rest of the time it's just sitting there, and I'm just burning money on this lease. So I was like, we should figure out a way to rent this out because it's just sitting here and I'm just sitting here, and let's figure out a way to do this. And there wasn't really much else in terms of like podcast studio offerings in Nashville. There still really isn't that much, to be honest. We've benefited from that. But it was more just like, there's an opportunity here and I'd be silly to just sit on my hands and not do anything when we have something valuable that we can offer to people.
So you have podcasters just at all hours of the day coming in, using the studio for their own shows?
Yeah. So you can go on our website, lagoscreative.co, and you can book, anywhere from 30, 60, 90, 120-minute sessions. We do custom bookings where people will be like, hey, can I rent it out for the day and do 8 episodes? We have a membership now called LC Pod Club. So you're getting like depending on the tier, anywhere from 25 to 35% off on your recordings for a certain amount of recordings per month. We sell bundles, buy 8, get 1 free. And then we still obviously do our back end stuff with our turnkey packages, where if you are enjoying recording with us and you don't want to be as hands-on with all your post-production needs, cool. We got a package for that.
Steve, this guy's a professional. He did his promo without us even having to cue him up.
I was waiting
we
for you to
normally let
interrupt me and
people
tell me not
plug
to.
where,
No, we always give people the opportunity to plug, and you're like, hold my beer.
Thanks, man.
Well,
No. So, Alex, I wanted to ask you, you had mentioned earlier the concept of standardization within podcasting.
Yeah.
And so I just was kind of interested to hear, your take on like what you feel like is going well in that regard, like what you like that you're seeing, and what you either feel like warrants change or you don't like the developments and you're hoping to change with your own company.
I like that more and more conversations we're having with people are with educated. They're educated in podcasting, meaning they have a fundamental understanding typically now of like, okay, it's going to be video, which is great, because for a long time we had to fight that battle to be like, it's going to video. You have to believe us. Video is where podcasting is going. More and more people understand that now, which has been really nice. And they also understand that like this stuff is expensive to do at a high level. And that I think the standardization of pricing has been a massive relief on us, because while I don't say that we don't compete on price, I'm not interested in being the Honda Civic of podcasting. We're a Ferrari, and what you get what you pay for. So that's been nice that people understand that, hey, we're not for everybody, but also if you do want things at this high level of service, it does cost. We used to have a lot of people who were like, what do you mean you can't do the whole thing for $300? We're like, would you do it for $300? They're like, no. I'm like, okay, well then there's your answer. So it's been nice to see kind of like people come around to understanding the value in the back end of podcasting, what happens behind the scenes. I think something that I am trying to, something that our company is trying to stand on and change is, I love that there are such high production value podcasts going on. Like, for example, Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp's show. Great. But it's a legitimate TV show. Like, it's in a production studio. It's hundreds of thousands of dollars are put into that show monthly for what they're doing. And while that's awesome, and I like that there's diversity in content, I also think like there's nothing wrong with just putting a couple cameras down and having a conversation. And I want to make sure that we preserve access to podcasting for people who aren't Shannon Sharp, who don't have that level of production. And that was a big component of why I wanted to open up the studio to rent as well, is like, look, you don't have to pay $3,000 an episode. You can pay $150 and come rent this for the hour, and you're not doing the full turnkey stuff, but like you have access, to the same high quality equipment in a studio atmosphere that those people who are paying that price point have as well.
And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm hearing you right, basically what you're saying is that you want to have excellence in what you're doing without basically cooking and putting caviar on everything.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And I think you can. I think like two things can be true there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I think I saw a podcast with Mr. Beast recently. I forget the guys what their podcast is called. It's like a group of 4 guys. They're all bros. And they had Mr. Beast on, and I watched the whole YouTube video, and I had that thought of like, this is not like Shannon Sharp's podcast where it looks like a TV show. It's like camera quality's not great, but I'm here for the content, and I like seeing the interactions, but I don't necessarily like need it to be 5-star. Like it's great as is, and it allows people with a voice, but not necessarily hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend to have a voice and share their story.
It's what made me fall in love with podcasting in the first place as a listener. Like I thought it was amazing that I could put on, a show like Joe Rogan and hear him have a conversation with Elon Musk as if nobody else is in the room. Right. Like and that to me is like the beauty of this medium that we have is, I believe that, not to get too like philosophical on it, but like, I believe that greater exposure leads to greater understanding. And I think that's a massive thing that we're all lacking right now. And I think that if we can put these conversations in front of people in a format that is long form and not clickbaity and not rage baiting, and I think that leads to more of us going like, You know what? I disagree, but I understand now where you're coming
Yeah.
from. I'm a big fan of that. So yeah, man, the mantra that we run under is out of shadows, because we want to take through podcasting voices, stories, perspectives, etc., out of shadows into the light of the mainstream, to be like, hey, here, this is something that you might not have ever encountered before, and without this video in front of you, you may never encounter it. But here we are because of the blessing of the internet and social media that we have, and maybe that makes the world a better place. I don't know. Time will tell.
No, I mean, I was about to say I love this because our current political paradigm could take notes.
Hey, I'm happy to do a podcast for anybody who wants to talk.
I'm not even necessarily trying to talk politics, but the whole
Sure.
thing that you just outlined there is like, you know what? I disagree, but I at least understand that you're a person that I don't need to punch because you hold an opinion different than mine.
Yeah.
So Kim Jong-un approaches you and wants to start a podcast.
Okay,
Let's do
here
it.
we go.
Come on, Kim. Write the check, bro. Let's do it. I'll give you final cut. Let me know.
Brush up on your North Korean. Or
So
on your Korean, I should say.
I am curious, how much, or do you know this off the top of your head, like how much of your revenue, let's call it monthly, is coming in from like studio rental versus the actual like grunt work that you're doing to promote a podcast to, add production value?
Hold on. Let me make sure I understand the question. How does our studio revenue compare to?
Like if you have a pie chart of your revenues coming in, like what portion, what does that look like? Do you have some coming in from renting out the studio? You have some coming in from you, like, working with people like John Christ and others.
Oh,
like
got it. Yeah,
doing work rather than just like letting people use the studio. Like what does that pie chart of your revenues look like?
Well, it used to be overwhelmingly those turnkey accounts that I was talking about, just because we had such a head start on the studio doing the turnkey stuff. Over time, that is now getting much closer to 50-50, which was not anticipated. And I'm really obviously happy with it to see how that's, because we haven't been losing turnkey stuff. We're gaining turnkey stuff. And yet still the studio revenue is catching up. So it's been an interesting thing to see. I think a lot of that comes from also, frankly, the election. I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to, podcasting has an impact. It's here to stay. This is something. It's not just a trend. And
I think it legitimately swayed the election in this. Like Elon Musk on Joe Rogan's podcast, I think swayed a lot of voters.
I would agree. Yeah, I think it definitely did. And I think other shows as well. JD Vance did his rounds. Like I just think, in whether you were on that side or you were on the other side, I think everybody came away with the same conclusion of, we should probably start paying attention to these podcasts. And I think that also led then a lot of business owners to say, well, if it can help sway an election, then I should probably also use it to maybe help sway people to pay me for whatever we do in business and become clients. And so we've seen a massive uptick in that. And that's been a lot. I would credit a lot of our, the studio revenue starting to rival the turnkey stuff to that. We've seen a huge uptick in professionals who are like, I might not even need a podcast, but I need video content. And they'll come in and they'll do that.
And I think maybe politics might be the easiest example of this to identify. But I feel like, back in the day, it was like politicians presented themselves as like a moral authority and they're righteous and this is why you vote for them. Mm-hmm. And then we had the pendulum swing to the other side where it's like, all politicians suck. We hate them. Like, they're worthless. And they're, people, I guess, still can kind of fall into those two buckets. But at least what podcasting does now, or these kind of conversations that podcasting can facilitate, is it allows people more easily to vet which bucket they want to put them in.
Yeah, I always say, like, if you're a trash person and you don't have a good personality, having a podcast is going to be the worst thing you could do for yourself. Yeah. It's going to be terrible because it's going to expose you. And on the other hand, if you are somebody like an Ernest, for example, who is typically a behind the scenes guy because he's a songwriter, he's just writing behind the scenes, he's selling those songs and they go crazy and he makes all the money in the world. And then he just rides off onto his ranch and does his thing. And he's very low key, but he's a star. And so you put him in front of people in podcasting and in a podcast format and everybody falls in love with him. And the example I like to use is like, if we were to do this every week, we got coffee once a week for an hour, we would know probably after like 2 or 3 weeks, man, I love those guys, or I can't stand those guys.
Alex, we can do that if you want.
Cool. I'll see you guys soon. Let's do it. But I think that's what podcasting provides, is the opportunity to really get to know somebody on an intimate level pretty quickly, because it's hard to play a role for a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to fake it when people get an hour with you every well, if they're binging you, it's
For
they're
sure.
getting hours and hours quickly.
That's something too. Going back to the question about like what I want us, our company to like stand on in podcasting that's shifting right now. Like I hate the super overly manicured shows. Let the conversation breathe, man. I think
Yeah.
yes, if there's a crazy dead air time where everybody just sits there and stares at each other for 10 seconds, cool, maybe cut that out. But also it kind of adds to like, that makes you feel like you're in the room.
Yeah.
I don't like the overly edited. I'm more of a fan of like, hey, if you record for an hour, and Net Positive is like this, by the way, we record for an hour goes out. We're not cutting stuff out of that. That's the
Yeah,
conversation.
I
That's how it
think
went down, and you guys get it the same way that we did.
I listened to Alex Hormozy on, is it Chris Williamson? Is that his
Yeah,
name? They had
awesome.
like a 4-hour show,
That's the episode
and
of the year right now. Yeah.
I listened to the whole thing
Yep.
in one sitting, I think. And there were like 15-second lulls where Alex is just like thinking.
Yes.
And I appreciate that he doesn't just like, he's not a machine that just has an answer. It humanized him a little bit, and it was like, no, I got to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
And I like, if you cut those lulls, I think you miss that in that conversation. So I appreciate just the raw, like, here it is.
You lose who he is. Like that's
Yeah.
what makes him. Elon's the same way. Elon on Rogan, where Joe will ask him a question, and Elon will
He
just go
stutters and
because he's just thinking about what he wants. He wants to make sure that he gives you a really good answer. I appreciate that. That's who he is. It's cool.
yeah. Last question for me before we get into our listener question, and then we can wrap unless Kyle has any burning questions. We'll edit this out because I forgot my question. So hold on.
You got to leave it in after we just had that combo.
I think he's right.
This is who you are, man.
He does if we're leaving this in, he does this probably once every 3 episodes.
Yeah, that's true. It's fair.
The anticipation
cut
is,
him out.
I'm edging my seat right now. I'm ready.
Well, I was gonna ask, do you do any are you just in person podcast only, or do you have like how we're right now? We're on a video medium, and I'm in Chicago, Kyle's in Dallas, you're in Nashville. We're all over the country right now. Do you have any clients where you do that, or are you just like you have to be in Nashville to be able to work with you?
Yeah, and I think as much as I'll always say that in person is preferred always because you get, you don't step on each other as much, you feel body language, and there's just a different dynamic that you can't ever replace with remote. Going remote allows you to open up to such a wider net of access for guests, and that's awesome. And I think it's something that it has to be an option. And so for us, we've tried to recreate as much of an in-person feel as we think is possible through a virtual portal. So yes, we'll host episodes like this where either the host and the guest will both be remote somewhere, and then we'll host it and we'll patch them together. We might even put them each in a studio in their respective city, just so we're getting really good quality. But we have other ones that are more hybrid, where we'll have people book the studio, they check an add-on option for a remote video call-in. When they come in, we have the call set up already behind the scenes on our production desk. The video patches through so that the guest is seeing them through the camera right in front of them. And then they're actually seeing the guest on a teleprompter that's on the lens. So when you as the host are looking straight at the face of the person you're talking to, you're looking directly into the lens of the camera. And so then when we split screen it, they look like they're talking to each other, and it's a really, really natural feel. Obviously the audio comes into headphones and it's just like a Zoom call, but you're looking straight into the camera. So yeah, we do it. I think that's I think the best way that we found it can be done. There's really bad ways to do it too. And I think you guys have probably seen that as well. It's just tough, man. It's tough because you'll never replace in person, but
sure,
it's necessary.
Yeah. I mean, we're making the most of what we got.
You guys are doing great. Sweet.
The last question I had before, Steve, we go into listener, and Alex, you can replug. The last question I want to ask is, obviously you talked about the impact you want to have on standardization, but as far as projecting for the future and how you want to continue to grow, or what you see as, what's next on the horizon, we'd love to know that too.
Yeah, I think I really love being in like an unwritten industry like podcasting right now, because it gives us a lot of room to play and experiment and test and learn, and also watch what other big players are doing right now and learn from where they're going. I think that YouTube has really stepped up in a way that is favorable to video podcasters. They're putting a lot of gasoline on like, hey, we want to own the podcast market. And that works great for us because we're very focused on video first. The audio is just something we always throw out there if you want it, but the video is where we want you to be. I think that where I'm excited to take our company specifically is we got this down pat pretty much in terms of like the studio recordings. I think now it's just a matter of how do we expand into other locations, other cities, and what that looks like. I'm really truthfully not even sure yet. I'm still exploring multiple options on it, on what angle I want to come about that. But it's also stuff like we're doing a lot more consulting on, hey, company A wants to have a podcast studio at our building. Can you build that out for us? Yes, would love to. We'll put together the list based on what you guys need. Here's all the gear. We'll get you the gear. We'll then install it all for you. And then if you want, we'll even rent that out as a location if you want to start turning that into a revenue like model for yourself. I just think access is really where podcasting is going. And it's going to be more voices, more noise, and hopefully more revenue, but definitely more exposure to a lot of really, really cool rooms where conversations are being had, and there's no mics right now. So I want to put some more mics on.
Yeah, I do wonder if like content will become more siloed, but I also feel like, especially with what you're talking about with your variety of clients, I feel like the more and more crossover that you get between different interests is also the future. So it's kind of fun to see it playing out in real time, and I can only imagine how fun it is for you
when it's all niching down, right? Like I think the future of content is you have a handful of creators that you're absolutely in love with, and they all speak into different areas of your life, and you don't go to anybody else besides those people when it comes to you consuming content. And that's where I think like small audiences are going to be really potent. And that's a great thing for advertisers. That's a great thing for creators. And I think a great thing for humanity over time. But I just think it's all connectivity, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, plug for us real quick before we get into the listener question, where we can, if somebody listening wants to follow you, follow what you're doing personally, not just like Net Positive Podcast and other shows aside, like if people want to know more about you, plug your socials, where, your websites, all those things.
Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn. I'm Mr. Alex Lagos. If you want to hit me up there, I'd love to connect. On the other hand, lagoscreative.co. You can see our full suite of services there. You can browse our set options. If you're in Nashville, we'd love to have you come in and record. If you're elsewhere and you're looking to do a podcast, we work with people nationwide. So whatever your podcasting needs are, we can help you out with that.
All right. Listener question. So we get a handful of questions that come in and compile them and pick ones that make sense for our guests. Typically, sometimes we get guest specific ones, but usually it's just a general pile of questions. And this one, it's come in a few times. I want you to think about this because obviously you are in the podcast space, but
Hormozy it.
I planned on it. I was going to take an egregiously long pause. Go ahead.
Well, the question is simply, we get a lot of business owners or aspiring business owners, and it's, should I start a podcast? And I think the answer is maybe guest or person dependent. But I wanted to get your take on that.
I think
give it 10 more seconds. Hold on.
Yeah. Should I start a podcast? I think that it's definitely like depends on who we're talking to here. I think if it's somebody who is, let's talk to the professional. If you're a professional and you want to start a podcast, I would say, do you have time? The most important thing for me is if you're going to do it, do it. 96% of podcasts don't make it past 8 episodes, which is why we do that bundle where you buy 8 and we'll give you the 9th. We put you in the top 4% immediately. Stupid little quirky sales thing. Cool, man.
I love that.
It works.
That's the podcasting version of your windows are trash.
Top 4%, dude. You're in it. Yeah, just by doing this. So I think if you don't want to bite off more than you can chew. So understand the time that's going to go into this. That said, if you're a professional and you're looking for content, that's a great place to mine it from. Now, you might not need a full podcast, though, to get that. You could just sit down at your camera or rent a studio or something like ours, and you can just talk to the camera about hey, this is the 60-second clip that I want to generate because that's what I really need on social. I might not need the long form. So understand kind of like what your purpose is in the show. What are you trying to actually get out of it? Because I hate to see people dive in and be like, I'm going to do this. And then they go 2 episodes and they're like, oh my God, this is so much work. I just can't handle it. And then they bail altogether. When if you bit off something small and you're like, I'm going to record for like 30 minutes a week and I'm just going to generate some clips, probably get exactly what you're looking for. So know what you're looking for out of a podcast, then make the decision of like, okay, do I want to start this? From a personal standpoint, somebody who's not looking for some type of like professional gain off of this, there is a lot of competition out there. There's now over 5 million podcasts. I think the number is creeping up towards 6 quickly. It's an insane amount of podcasts out there. Now, 96% of those have never made it past 8 episodes, as we know. So most of them are dormant, but you need to bring something unique to the table if you want to find success. And I do say, and it's convenient, obviously, because I'm the one who's like, we'll help you make the podcast happen. I don't think podcasting is oversaturated. I think it's noisy. I think that there are a ton of shows that aren't doing anything because they're literally dead, or they're just yapping with no intention, and they're just putting stuff out because they want to be able to say, I have a podcast. So there's definitely room to make an impact in podcasting as somebody who's just like, I'm going to do a lifestyle show where I just talk about my life and friends and whatever it is. But it's hard. It's really, really hard. And something even like we're testing right now is me and Easton just started our own show called In Other News, where we're just doing a weekly rundown. We record Wednesday morning, we drop Wednesday afternoon. And the goal is we're going to do a rundown of some news that we care about, not the news that you see on Fox and CNN and MSNBC and whatever. And the challenge with that I'm seeing if we can accomplish is like, what if we go low budget production where there's no editing and it's basically a live stream where we're just split screened and we're just chatting? Can that work? I don't know. We'll find out. But I've seen other examples of it works. Like if you guys are familiar with Shane Gillis, Shane's show is lower production than that. Like it's one camera with 2 mics and just a couple guys with no lighting, chatting, just hanging out. Granted, they're 560 episodes in, so it's been a minute.
Yeah. And granted, he's Shane Gillis.
And granted, he's Shane Gillis. But when he started, he wasn't Shane Gillis. He was just Shane. Right. So I think I hope that answers the question of should I start?
No, it does. It does. I mean, kind of requires some people to do some self-inventory or some self-reflection.
Yeah.
And then
well,
I guess,
everybody, you talk to anybody and they're like, well, I was thinking about starting a podcast. And I'm like, should
well,
you?
It is funny. It's funny you say that because Steve, I sent Steve a video. I don't know. We were probably like 10 episodes in, and it was a comedy video of this guy. It's like things that you encounter in your 30s, and he's running away from all these different things, like losing your hair and like buying a grill and like just all these different things that are emblematic of your 30s. And then one of them was start a podcast, and I was like,
we were like, whoa.
Steve, have we made a mistake? Because the first few we were like, we're okay, like I'm good, like it just, you want to do everything you can to avoid making whatever you're doing your personality trait.
Yeah.
But
I would also add, like, I think should I start a podcast should be considered with the same weight as like, should I start a business? I think it's the same thing. It's like, I don't know. Do you want to do this for like
it's
years?
A grind.
Do you really want to do this? Like that's what you're signing up for. Because it's easy to sign up for 8, but like, you're not going to find success after 8. So like do 100. Are you ready to do 100 episodes of whatever this thing is that you want to do?
We're getting there.
I mean, and it's a great point too, though, because a lot of the reason the people that we're intending to draw as our audience, in large part, are aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to break out of that concept of trading time for money. And if you're just frivolously spending your time on a podcast working an hourly job, then you're throwing away your free time and not making more money.
Well, and that comes down to what do you want out of it? That's where I go, like, what do you want? Do you want this to be profitable? Because it won't be for a long time. So like give yourself a 2-year runway and then maybe you'll make some money on it. On the other hand, it's like, if you just want some content, cool, man, spend your time doing that. That sounds fantastic.
S's and G's with Shane Gillis, right?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. Well, It's been good catching up, man. I love hearing about what you're doing, all the success that you found post window sales. I don't know how successful you were in window sales. Maybe you were crushing it then
I was
too.
terrible, dude. I was so, I was bad. I was so bad.
But it's good to catch up. It's good to hear how things are going. Just to kind of get the story of what I'd been seeing online. I was like, man, this guy, like something happened here. What happened? So I love hearing how successful you've been. Since circa 2018 up to now, how you've grown this thing. We just appreciate you coming on the show, letting us pick your brain.
Oh, dude, unbelievable. Thank you so much for having me. This is so cool.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are doing this. It's awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate it, and looking forward to having coffee with you when you look opening your Dallas branch.
Let's do it.
No,
dude.
Chicago branch.
Wow.
No.
Well,
Or maybe we'll just venture over to Nashville.
well, franchisees, possibly you.
Yeah, we'll
You let us know.
Stay tuned.
Thanks, guys. Really
All
appreciate
right,
it.
thanks again.